Um, Hopefully you've had a good day. I'm going to go do it a little bit differently today because you kind of know everybody now. You're all best of friends, you know. You've been hanging out for the last 3 days. So instead of introducing yourself, because we know who everybody is now, what I'd like to do is kind of have a little bit of a catch up on the homework, because I did get a few pictures through for the foods that people had, but I didn't get anybody telling me how the meditation went, which I thought was interesting. So I'm going to go around the room and I'm going to pick the easiest target first, because it's somebody that already does meditation. So he's probably done it anyway. And I'd just like to find out how your meditation went since we last spoke. So Mark, if I can get you to unmute yourself.
Sure. Well, as you know, Paul, I actually have a daily meditation practice, and I think today was day 1123 of consecutive
Wow.
days. So, yes, it's something that's near and dear to my heart. What I did notice in my meditation this morning was that my mind is very active. Um, these last couple of days has been really inspirational for me. It's kind of got me back focused, and so my mind is making all of these plans, as minds do. And so it was a little bit hard to find my usual stillness, but that's okay. You're never going to still the mind. That's not the point. The point is to be bringing an awareness to your thoughts, and over time and in experience, you'll find what your patterns are. And that's really helpful, especially when you need to make an adjustment or a change.
Excellent, thank you. I mean, what sort of advice would you give somebody that was thinking about or tempted to start meditation? What would you say for somebody that's brand new to this?
Be gentle with yourself. This isn't about perfection. You're not going anywhere. Just be with when you have a thought that comes up. Try not to get caught in it. Uh, my mind is really good about catching me. So trying to create some space between the thought and then just letting it go.
Okay. And is there a particular way that you do that? How do you let go of something? It sounds obvious, but how do you do it?
How do I do it? Well, the journaling meditation that you mentioned yesterday is really good. Is to pause and ask yourself the question, is this serving me? And if it's not, then you can just let it go. You just not give it any energy, any attention, because if you do that, that'll just strengthen that thought and that pattern. So just being gentle, giving space to have that thought come up, and then just not getting caught and just letting it go.
Mm. And do you what kind of a physical position are you in when you're doing your meditation?
I normally just sit in a chair. You should have a straight spine, and just very relaxed. Another thing that I noticed today is a lot of physical tension because of the excitement, but tuning into your body and how it's feeling also will help you to release those thoughts. Relaxing is really, really important when you're noticing your thoughts, just to relax into it and just let it kind of pass through you.
Brilliant. Thank you. I will ask everybody else if you have any questions for somebody, because Mark is a lot more experienced and a lot more dedicated to meditation than I am. Does anybody have a question for Mark? No? All right, no worries. Thank you very much, Mark. I really appreciate it. I
You're
will go
welcome.
around the room as well because I do want to sort of check in with everybody rather than them introducing themselves earlier on. So it is, meditation is something that unless you have had some experience in it, it can kind of be like, oh yeah, but what's the point? I don't understand. What will I get out of it? And maybe that's a good question I could probably ask you as well on the back of that is, what do you get out of it? What is the result that you get from doing this regular meditation?
Lately, it's been experiencing how my mind works. Mind is different than consciousness and awareness. So having that space allows me to better observe the thought that comes up, what it contains, and like I said, noticing any patterns. Lately, I've been taking a course on Insight Timer,
Oh
and
yeah,
that's a meditation app that I recommend, um, that I use daily. And they have courses on there. And right now I'm working my way through is um, how not to mind your mind and not getting overly invested in your thoughts. And this course has really been good about teaching me that the negative thoughts and the negative thought patterns that I have are actually normal. Um, our minds are, have been with humanity for so long that it's literally back in the Stone Age. The mind has two functions. The first is to keep us safe, and the second is to avoid any discomfort or pain. So a lot of our thoughts are negative based because they're either in judgment about what's happening now or what's happening in the future. And it's been a relief for me to realize that all of these negative thoughts that are coming up, which have come from our conditioning as we grow up, um, that it's normal, that you know everybody has them, and you're not special, and you're not going to ever get rid of them, but you can come to a peace with it and be able to work with it. So that's kind of the benefit that I get from my meditation practice.
brilliant. Thank you very much. And I wholeheartedly agree with you there. It doesn't make the negative thoughts disappear. They don't go away, but it does kind of either make it easier to cope with them in a way that it kind of just turns it down a notch, and it makes it less overpowering and less debilitating when you have those negative thoughts. And it is something that I have personally experienced as well, that when I am going through a stressful time, that doing meditation and making time for it as part of my own health, mental health
Mm-hmm.
regime, that it really has a positive effect. And it's similar to what I was mentioning yesterday in the fact that when I feel like I'm in a good place, I forget to do my meditation because I'm in a good place. So it's fine. I don't need to do it. Whereas actually, that's when you actually start to release some more of the happy thoughts and some of the more productive things and some of the more the good things. So, don't just do it when you're feeling stressed and feeling anxious and feeling negative, but do it when you're feeling positive. Do it when you're energized. Do it, get the positives as well. And like you've been able to do consistently every single day for years, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And you get to enjoy the benefits of both. The inspiration when you're feeling positive, but also being able to cope with the negative when you're not. So it's incredibly useful, and it's something that I really wanted to bring up here because, as I mentioned yesterday, when people get stressed, when they feel anxious, when they're sort of suffering from anxiety, those sorts of things, um, connecting with yourself, dealing with your mental health, looking after your sort of kind of spiritual side, I guess, even if you're not spiritual, I guess that's a good way of describing it. um, it's all part of the same thing. And as I try to go for a more holistic approach, not just focusing on what you shove in your mouth, but also why you're doing that and what the driving factor is usually because of what's going on in your head. And again, as I mentioned, we tend to try and fix a lot in our head, and it goes around and around and around. And the more it goes around, the more confused we get and frustrated we get. And by having a regular meditation session, it just calms it down a little bit. It gives you that breather. It gives you that moment where you can just think, okay, I'm going to have a bit of a break, a bit of a holiday from that, and come back with it with fresh eyes and fresh energy. And it does help, whether you're feeling negative or whether you're feeling relaxed and positive. There is always a benefit for doing it, and it doesn't need to be for a long time. As I did yesterday, the 60-second meditation, just doing it for that, it just sort of gives you a little bit of a soothing sensation. So it's definitely something that I would recommend. So I also gave it a go, and I just came up with a to-do list of all the things that I was thinking, oh, I need to get that done for today, and then I need to do this, and I need to do that. And I wrote down 5 things. But I did a 5-minute meditation, and only 5 things came up and bothered me that I stopped, wrote down what it was I wanted to take away from it. But the rest of the time, it was just stuff and nonsense that was coming into my head. I was thinking, this is cute, but it's not serving me. It's not serving any purpose. So I was able to let that go, and it does really benefit. And as somebody that struggles with sleep and energy levels because I have sleep apnea, being able to practice and become experienced in this kind of relaxation during the day means that when I go to bed at night, I do a little bit of that meditation, but because I'm lying down in a relaxed state, I then allow myself to drift off into sleep at that point. So it's not the best way to do meditation, because you actually want to be awake and alert when you're doing meditation. But learning to do that means you can also utilize that for getting to sleep quicker, which, I mean, I can literally fall asleep within 60 seconds. It drives my boyfriend nuts. It's absolutely insane. Yeah, so that's definitely something I would recommend. So let me sort of whiz around the room and see what other people have been able to do. Phil, let me tag you next. Were you able to do any of the meditation exercises?
Yes, I was. I left it until I'd eaten tonight, so um, I was a bit worried, so I'd had a little bit of a wine, so I thought must make sure that I'm with it. But yes, I started writing a few things down, and it was silly things like, shall I wash up tonight? And perhaps I've only had half a quarter of a glass of wine. Perhaps I can have some more. And then it cleared. I was a bit skeptical because I've looked at some before on the internet, and I think you mentioned it yesterday. Some of the voices grated with me a great deal. But some were good. But then I got sick of hearing the waves and things like that. I liked yours, but I wanted more. I found that I was just relaxing, and I could have gone on longer. I could have done 3 minutes or possibly 10 minutes even. It did work for me. I found myself gradually sort of focusing on things, and I closed my eyes, which helped me, but I accept that it doesn't help everybody. And I think it does help me to box my negative thoughts to one side, so you can sort of become more positive. I'm a perfectionist, and I think this is what stresses me out sometimes when I don't achieve that, which is all the time. So it did help me. Yeah.
Good, absolutely brilliant. So the link that I sent everybody to the 60-second one, if you just put your email address in there, it'll link you to a 3-minute version of that. So it's a slightly extended version.
But Paul, it said it wasn't available when I tried that.
Oh, isn't it? Oh, I'll double check that. Maybe
Yeah.
the link's broken. Thank you for letting me know. Let me make a note of that so it doesn't come up in my meditation later. Fix 3-minute video. I'll fix that, but also I'll send you the direct link to it as well, so you don't have to go through that process again in the future. So there are lots of different types of meditation. Guided meditation is usually when you've got some bloke droning on in the background telling you what to do. As a starting point, that can be useful. But in my eyes, proper meditation is you don't have anybody guiding you at all. It's literally just allowing yourself to go on a journey. But if you want to try different techniques or just get into it, then the guided meditation is a great way of starting. I'll also, because I have also got Insight Timer as well, and I'll send you the link to Insight Timer to give you as alternatives as well. But as I said, a lot of these, some of the voices can be a little bit grating. So you need to try a few different ones until you find that one that suits you. Okay. So let me try Don now. Don, I don't know if you were able to have a look at the previous videos, or did you see the homework where I was talking about it? And have you ever done meditation before?
I did not see the homework. Sorry.
Okay.
But I've written it down, so I will check on it tonight. But I have done meditation before. So knowing that that's something you're encouraging, I'll look at that and give that another try. I've found that in the past when I've done it, I think Philip was talking about getting distracted with little things that pop in your head and being able to just set those aside. I usually do it on a piece of paper.
Yeah,
that works pretty well for me. I do have to have noise in the background of some kind, because when I'm in my house, if I hear a noise or something, my brain just automatically goes to, oh, I've got to call the plumber about that pipe rattling sound, or I've got to, it just causes all kinds of craziness to happen. But when I have done it and when I have really been able to get to it, it helps me, especially at night. I have a problem at night with being able to fall asleep is not a problem, but I sleep for 3.5 hours and then I wake up and many times it's over. I just don't get back to sleep at all. And so when I'm doing the meditation, that doesn't happen as often. So It's a good idea. I think it's better for my health. So yeah.
Similar sort of thing. I mean, I was saying yesterday that as an example, when I do sort of my own meditation, I'll have a notepad and pen next to me, so that if there is something that keeps saying, you need to do this, I'll just open my eyes and I'll write it down, and that way I can let it go. I also use that technique if I wake up in the middle of the night and I can't get back to sleep again, because that's usually me trying to fix something, and something is playing on my mind. So if I wake up, I go to the loo, because obviously I'm over 40, so that's what we have to do. And if I'm thinking, no, I'm awake now because this thing is going on in my head, I'll sit down and I'll write out maybe a page or two of what's going on, what's the problem, what I want to do about it. And once I've written it down, it's really weird, because your subconscious mind is almost like, oh, you've written it down, I don't need to keep reminding you about this now. And I just get back to sleep. It can take me like an hour to write all this stuff down if it's a really big problem, a really big thing that's troubling me. But I'd rather do that and then go back to sleep for another 2 or 3 hours than basically get up at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning and just like stress over it. So maybe try that, give that a go. But yeah, definitely consistently doing the meditation in the first place will tone that down automatically for you anyway. So it's a really good idea. Thank you for that. Ian, how did you get on?
Hi, you can hear me now.
Yes, I can, yeah.
Thought I'd check first. Yeah, I tried it this morning and I think my mind was just all over the place. Again, it was sort of going through a to-do list really and stuff that's been outstanding. But I've sort of done it once or twice in the past. If I've been in a sort of group session and it's just been, sort of lie down and they sort of talk you through, and normally you're off to a beach somewhere and you meet somebody you want to see again and all that sort of thing. And it does sort of relax you incredibly and you sort of come out of it. Well, normally I'm in floods of tears at that point, but there you go.
Yeah.
But certainly I've used the sort of notepad by the bedside for a good number of years, it's a combination these days of that or my phone, and I send myself an email. I don't spend an hour at it writing it down detailed, mind you.
It was a big problem that I had that I was trying to sort out at the time. So yeah.
Normally it's just sort of a heading even will do it, just to remind myself in the morning, so I know I haven't got to worry about it. So no, I'm quite happy to sort of carry on and explore the meditation path.
Yeah.
I just ended up with a to-do list this morning, but no, I'm quite happy to explore it further, certainly.
Yeah, and ending up with a to-do list is absolutely fine. It's not a failure. It's not that your meditation hasn't worked. It simply is that needs to be sorted. And what I found is that for the first, I don't know, it must have been about the first 2 or 3 weeks, it was a shopping list every single bloody time. It's like, oh my God, get over yourself. It's not that big a deal. I'll probably forget the list anyway when I go shopping. So I still bloody guess when I get there. But it was about 2 or 3 weeks later, it no longer was a shopping list. It was actually things that I didn't realize I was worrying about or stressing over or felt were important enough for me to at least think about them and consider, is there something I actually need to do about this? So it is a development, and it is a growth, it is a change. And as I said, when things aren't stressing me out, then creative thoughts come out. And I never really considered myself as a terribly creative person. So when this stuff happens, it's like, oh, this is really interesting. So it's actually quite nice and entertaining that, I can unlock that side of my brain that normally it just doesn't come out. So yeah, there's one of the things that I really wanted to dig a lot deeper into, and this is one of the reasons why I've called it a health spa and not just a nutrition or fitness farm or something like that, because I did want to really dig into this quite a bit and see what people's experience was. So thank you for that. I appreciate it, and do keep it up. Right, Martin, let's go for you next.
Sorry, I was just chomping through my dinner there quickly. And I didn't want you all staring at me and commenting on what I'm eating.
as if we would do
that. Meditation. So yes, I've done quite a bit of meditation. I belong to I guess called a spiritual community who get together and they meditate for 45 minutes once a week. And again, you have good days and bad days, and sometimes the monkey swing from tree to tree in your brain goes absolutely crazy. And some days you're just gone and it just flies by. But I haven't done it for a while. I did two 5-minute meditations. The first, and it went very, very quickly. I had silly things like set my alarm for yoga in the morning. Must charge my toothbrush, and I did write it all down, and I still forgot to charge my toothbrush. But yeah, I like meditation, and again, it takes practice, meditation, and it's for me, it's not trying to force the thoughts away. It's actually, okay, I hear you, and you've been heard. Now I can let you go. because for me, that trying to force things doesn't work, because then it's going to pop back and back and back. It's like, okay, I hear you. Now you can go.
Absolutely agree with you. It's not about shutting down a thought. It's about listening to it, understanding it, and making a conscious decision. Are you just a trivial, silly little thought, or are you actually trying to tell me something?
Mhm.
And accepting it and say, oh, okay, this is actually something that is important to me. And there are a couple of ways that I kind of let those thoughts go. As I said, write one of them down. Another one is to imagine that it is drifting away inside a bubble, or floating off along a stream, or something like that. So you actually get some kind of movement from it. And that works for me, but it is different for everybody. And that's why I think that the guided meditations are a great way to start if you've not got the experience, because they talk you through that all the time. But sort of try and mix it up and do a bit on your own. That's brilliant. Thank you very much, Martin. I really appreciate it. Mikey, now you weren't able to join us yesterday, so you wouldn't have had the homework, but I just wanted to check in with you. Is meditation something that you've done, you've tried? Is it something you do at the moment?
Yes. So I did have a chance to have a look at the homework, and I did do the exercise. I found it really different, actually, because I have done meditation in the past, and through mental health, and my therapist suggested guided meditation. So I downloaded the app, the Headspace app, which I used for a couple of years. And with the guided meditation, you know that it has the voice. I don't actually mind it, but I've
Okay.
actually found, I know I can understand where people are coming from, where some of the voices, yeah, you can't concentrate. So I have listened to, I think the guy who does it is Andy Buddhiscom or something like that. And yeah, I don't actually mind the sound of his voice, so it's fine for me. But it was really interesting. I tried to do it a direct comparison with the exercise that you did, and it was really interesting not having a voice. And I actually found that more useful. Um, what I found interesting about it was, I think I became, because I did it lying down, so I think I was a little bit too relaxed, and I actually drifted off. And then before I knew it, it was 3 o'clock. So um, yeah. So I had made a list as well, and I kind of I think I was a little bit too relaxed. I think I need to in terms of I need to I need to build it into my routine, because I haven't been so good at doing the guided version. Yeah, I just need to work out how I fit it into a routine, because I have done it a lot in the past, but I've never managed to maintain it throughout, if that makes any sense.
Oh, totally. Absolutely. Yeah.
But just to echo what I know, that it is, I tend to do it when I'm feeling bad rather than when I'm happy. And I think that's the issue that I need to work on, is, doing it all the time so it becomes a habit. And yeah, that's my experience, really.
Brilliant. Yeah, absolutely. It really is. um when people are doing something to help them get through bad times, then doing it at least a little bit whilst the good times are there as well means that you're kind of giving yourself that support, so that when the next wave of crap comes down on you, you're actually already prepared for it. You're actually already supported. And you're not going into it cold like you would have been if you only supported yourself when there was a problem. So I really do believe that if you find meditation beneficial, don't just save it for the bad times. Use it all the time. If you don't have enough time to do the guided meditation, do 60 seconds of solo meditation, or 3 minutes, or whatever time you have available. If you have enough time to jot down a couple of notes, then great. If you don't worry about it. Just do 60 seconds. It will make a huge difference. It will reduce, at the very minimum, it will reduce your blood pressure and calm you down. It'll reduce your stress hormones, your cortisol levels. It'll reduce inflammation. There's so many things that will biologically go on inside you that will support you for the rest of the day. So it's totally worth doing that. Some people recommend doing it first thing in the morning. Personally, for me, if I was going to do it first thing in the morning, I'd probably fall back to sleep again, even if I was sat up. So
What happened to me is exactly what happened to me this morning.
But yeah, I mean, as I was saying, if I meditate lying down, I will fall asleep without a doubt. So I normally do it actually sat where I am today, in this chair, with my arms resting either in my lap or on my desk, so that I'm much more upright and it's much more difficult to fall asleep. The best advice, mix it up, try different things, try different ways of doing it. It'll keep it more interesting, and you'll start to lean towards something that works better for you anyway. So don't feel like you have to do it this way because that's the right way of doing it. There is no right way. It's completely unique to every individual. So brilliant. Keep it up. Thank you, Mikey.
Thank you.
Bill and Will, how are you getting on? How's your daily meditation routines going?
All right. Well, we used Insight Timer as well. It's one that I have on my phone, and we did 5 minutes. So I personally prefer it quiet. The guided meditations sometimes are interesting, but I really prefer it just with a bell at the beginning and a bell at the end, so I don't have to worry about starting and stopping. And I didn't write down a single thing. We just did 5 minutes, so it wasn't super long, but nothing came to do or anything. It was really a very relaxing time for me to just sit and sort of clear my mind, which I found real stimulating.
Good. And that's the thing, is that even if nothing comes up, doesn't mean it's a failure or a success. It just means that at the moment there isn't anything that specifically needs doing, but by doing that you are still going to reduce those sort of hormones in your body that can cause inflammation. It's very good for pain management as well, so that might be of a benefit to you at the moment, because obviously you're slightly injured at the moment. So Will, what about you? What did you do?
Well, just side note, the fact that he didn't have anything to worry about, I take as a success.
Absolutely. I was going to say that, yeah.
But this was the first time that I did a meditation with no background music whatsoever. I've been doing mindfulness meditation for about a year, and I started off with the guided meditations until I kind of understood what it was I was supposed to do. And then I've always done it with just sort of chimey background music. And this one, I was astonished with how fast the 5 minutes went, because usually it's 2 or 3 minutes of background music and I have a lot of thoughts, and I didn't have a lot bubble up either. But I was just really surprised when the chime went off, and I thought he'd set it for 1 minute instead of 5. Wow. And so I think I'll do it with a silent background moving forward. And for me, it just sort of breaks the momentum of my thoughts and my sort of stress attitude. I'm stressed out with a lot of stuff right now, and it just calms me down, and again, so that lowered blood pressure and just a stiller, calmer mind, which is massively beneficial for me right now.
Fantastic. I'm so pleased that everybody's either tried it or they're already doing it. I'm just like, yeah. Winning.
I wanted to say that probably the reason that nobody said anything is on your homework list. You said to post the picture of the 20 grams of protein or whatever, but you just said to do the meditation.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Because I asked about that, I was like, should we write about what we thought about? And he said, no, he didn't say that. So we'll just
yeah, it wasn't until afterwards I thought, oh, why isn't nobody has sent me anything? What's going on here? So I'm really, really pleased that everybody's at least given it a go or was doing it already anyway. So that's brilliant. Thank you very much indeed. All right. Thank you for doing that. It really does just go to show how committed you all are to improving your health and improving your wellness, and willing to try something that's a little bit maybe different to what you're used to, or at least sort of pushing yourself a little bit more in something that you maybe try and do every day but haven't done yet. So I think that's an amazing win. So give yourself a pat on the back for doing that. Right, let's pop onto a few slides then. And let's move that out of the way. Okay, so hopefully you can all see the slides now, yeah? Good, thank you. All right, so we had a bit of a progress checking with the meditation, obviously, and seeing what works and what doesn't. And I also wanted to have a chat about the 20 grams of protein. Now, Martin did say he had 20 grams of protein with his ham, which is the bottom right-hand corner picture. And suddenly I thought, oh, did you think I meant 20 grams of ham or 20 grams of protein? Because that looks like 20 grams of ham, Martin. So what did you put on your plate?
I have no idea how much protein there is in meat. For me, meat is protein. So I had 20 grams, which is this tiny slice of gammon. And I was like, that's all?
I'm really sorry. I should have explained better. And this is one of the reasons why it's good to do this feedback, because it's like, oh shit, you thought I meant 20 grams of meat, didn't you? Right. So meat is 30% protein. So you could have had 3 times as much meat to get, I know, I'm really sorry. And what I should also heard explained was 20 grams is where you want to aim for. If you want to get more than that, you are more than welcome to have more than 20 grams of, yeah, I know, I felt so bad when I saw that picture come through. So yeah, 20 grams of protein is kind of like the baseline. If you can get more than that, great. If you get it from different sources, then that's great as well. So I'm just going to kind of go through a few of these. So we've got a omelette with a little bit of carbohydrates and bread, stuffed full of vegetables. Fantastic. Next one, again, omelette with loads of veg crammed into it, a bit of bread, and some yogurt and some berries. Now, this is actually Norman's food, who is on a special diet at the moment. So this is basically the most normal food I've seen him eat, and he was thrilled to bits to be able to get this. But look, loads and loads of protein in there, the Greek yogurt, the berries, a little bit of honey on there. This is all good stuff. This is going to fill you up for longer. It may seem like a lot of food, and for a lot of, I mean, I probably wouldn't be able to eat all of that. That would be too much for me. But if I was going out or going to have a long day or something, I might even try and push myself to having this. This is actually what I had this morning. So this is me trying to be a little bit fancy, not doing very well at it, but there you go. So a couple of slices of toast, some scrambled egg and some strips of smoked salmon over top of it, and my little bearded mug of coffee in the background there. I get a lot of people commenting on how much carbohydrate I have, and I just simply explain to them, it depends on what your goal is. Now, my goal is not to lose any weight. I've kind of hit where I want to be. I might want to lose a tiny bit of body fat, but really not a lot at all. So I actually have to be quite careful that I am balancing a little bit more carbohydrate than people who want to lose weight. So I get a lot of hate from how much carbohydrate I have, and I'd just like to apologize, but I'm on a different part of my journey to a lot of people. So that's why there's 2. If I was recommending this to one of my clients who was looking to lose weight, I would recommend having 1 slice of toast, but the whole of the egg quantity and the salmon still having that on that plate as well. So you're still getting that full whack of protein, but you're just toning down the carbohydrate a little bit, but you're still getting full from it. Bottom left-hand corner, Greek yogurt, berries, possibly frozen berries that have been defrosted. That is my favorite dessert. So if I am getting that craving after having something to eat, and I've had my drink, and I think, no, I do want something extra, something a little bit sweet, something a little bit like a pudding, I'll get some frozen berries, whatever berries you want, doesn't matter. Berries are really high in fiber. So even though they're quite sort of sweet and sugary, they're very low on the glycemic index. In fact, raspberries, I think, have the highest amount of fiber of all the berries. So if you want to really go for something super duper, then go for the raspberry. But to be honest, you're looking at possibly a tablespoon of berries. It's really not worth worrying about. Have what you like. Have strawberries, have blackberries, have blueberries, have whatever. Have a mix. Zap them in the microwave for 60 seconds. They'll be hot by that point, but they will release all those juices. Put the Greek yogurt on top. Because it's Greek yogurt, you might need a little bit of sweetness, and the berries might be a little bit tart. So maybe a teaspoon of honey over the top of that, just to give it a little bit of an edge, and then mix it up. And there's something about when I mix that up and all the colors get swirled in, it just takes me back to being that 5-year-old kid who's mashing up his ice cream like an annoying little twat, making it into ice cream soup. That's kind of the feeling I get, and it just makes me excited, like an idiot. And then the next one here we have, and I know that there are bran flakes underneath this. Is it bran flakes or all bran, something like that? But a bigger portion of yogurt and some banana on top. Brilliant to hear that you boosted the yogurt, because it's really the protein that we're trying to get in there. So we are looking about, so for those that are interested in how much protein is in something, yogurt is about 10% protein. So you're going to need about 200 grams of yogurt to get 20 grams of protein. Okay, so it's a big old ass bowl of yogurt that you're going to have to get that quantity. But that's one of the reasons why I recommend the Greek yogurt, because it's going to be slightly lower in the lactose, slightly lower in sugar, slightly lower in calories. So it's just a lot more protein in there. So it's a good way of getting that in. Then we have this fantastic breakfast burrito that is from Mark. So it's vegan. And that's going to have, I believe it's got the tofu scramble in that one, hasn't it, Mark? Yeah,
yeah. That's right.
Perfect. So that's going to be where most of his protein is coming from. But I think there's also other bits and pieces. Now, pretty much every single vegetable has a bit of protein in it. Not huge amounts, but it is going to have protein in it. So the more sort of veggies you get in there, you are going to be boosting your protein. Adding things that are particularly high in protein, like lentils, like beans, like chickpeas, those sorts of things, that's going to give you an additional boost of protein. But those things, because of the macros within like lentils and beans and chickpeas and things like that, they are technically still a carbohydrate. So you do have to bear that in mind if you are trying to lose a bit of weight, because we do tend to oversubscribe to the carbohydrate system. And that's usually because that's just how we've been brought up. We've been brought up by people who didn't have a lot of money. Food wasn't terribly cheap, and therefore to fill you up, you'd get bread, you'd get potatoes, you'd get rice, you get all these things that are very, very cheap, calorific, and will fill you up. And that's basically the mindset that we're trying to move away from these days. And then we got a couple of dinners. I think that's a beef patty and a huge salad on the side of it. And then poor old Martin's ham. I take full responsibility and I apologize profusely for that.
The worst is my partner then finished all the ham.
Oh no. Oh well. Today to tomorrow is a new day. You can, tell you what, you have full permission to go to Waitrose tomorrow and really treat yourself to some really, really nice ham and just eat the whole thing on your own. There you go. So I do bang on a lot about protein. Let me just turn these slides off for a second so I can have a quick chat with you. So I do talk about protein quite a lot, and there are a few reasons for that. We kind of got ourselves into the habit of having cereal for breakfast, which is very high in carbohydrate, we put some milk on it or some milk alternatives, they're not that high in protein. I mean, milk's pretty good, but the quantity we're using is so small. You're getting about 2 or 3 grams of protein in that milk that you're adding to your cereal. And if you're adding a milk alternative, virtually no protein whatsoever. So you're really going to have to work harder to boost that protein level up if you're having a breakfast cereal. So, for example, my boyfriend, I would say he likes Weetabix, but he doesn't actually like it, but he's in the mentality that it's supposed to be healthy for him, therefore he has it. So I've kind of moved him away from having 3 Weetabix with milk to 2 Weetabix, a splash of milk, 2 tablespoons of Greek yogurt to boost the protein, and a few sultanas or something like that, just to give it a little bit of oomph. And it's more about making it a little bit better than making it perfect. So he's still having his Weetabix, he's still having his milk, but I'm making it a little bit better by adding a little bit more protein into it. And it's still basically the same thing, but it fills him up for longer. He's finding it, his concentration levels are a little bit better because he's got a more even blood sugar throughout the rest of the morning. So that's kind of what we're aiming for here. And by having the even blood sugar, it's going to reduce the need for snacking. It's going to improve your energy levels, and it's going to help you make better decisions when lunchtime comes, because you're not so starving hungry, and you're not having mid-morning snacks because you're not having that sugar crash about 10:30, 11 o'clock, which you would do if you were having a high carbohydrate cereal type thing. So that's the reason, one of the reasons why I talk about protein a lot. And as we're getting older, you also need to really consider regenerating your body as much as you possibly can. So making sure your protein resources are available for your body to regenerate your muscle tissue. When people lose weight, weight is everything in your body. So you're talking about body fat, lean body, muscle, basically, organ tissue, water as well. All of those things can reduce if you go on a diet that's too fast, too soon, and you're losing weight too quickly. So that's why I ask people to slow it right down. 0.5 pound to a pound, maybe 2 pounds a week tops is what you should be aiming for. Anything more than that, you are going to put yourself at risk of losing weight too quickly, which will mean you're going to be burning muscle tissue and not just fat. By doing that, you're going to be reducing the metabolic base rate that your body functions on. And so you're going to actually have to lower calories again. And it's kind of a vicious cycle. And by doing that, you are setting yourself up to yo-yo. You're going to crash, burn, rebound, put on more weight than you did the last time. So by focusing a little bit more on the protein and thinking about how you can improve that. So Don says, do you actually lose fat cells or do they just go dormant? So when you metabolize fat, or oxidize fat, it does actually remove it and burn it and take it away. They don't just deflate, ready to be filled up again, like a little greedy clam, you know. So yeah, they do actually go. So when you do, if you're doing it slowly, you'll be more likely to be burning fat than you will muscle. So if you do it slowly, it's going to be fat that you're losing. So yeah, the fat cells will go, they will be reduced. Okay. So focusing on the protein will allow you to feel fuller for longer, more even energy levels, and that will allow you to make better decisions later on in the day, more educated decisions rather than primal, I'm hungry decisions, that sort of thing. Okay. And I'll go on to a few other slides now, because it's probably easier for me to just sort of explain it this way. So I wanted to go through a few examples of some smart food swaps. So carbs, there are loads of diets out there at the moment that are very, very anti-carbs. And the interesting thing is that each carbohydrate molecule, when it goes into your body, requires four water molecules, and they attach to the carbohydrate molecule. So if you think about it, if you have 1 gram of carbohydrate, you're going to have 4 grams of water. So every time you're eating carbohydrate, you're actually putting on 4 times as much weight than you think you should be doing. So that's why when you go on a low carb diet, you suddenly lose loads and loads of weight, because surprise, it's water you're losing. It's not fat. It's maybe even, it's a little bit of muscle. But that first week in particular, you could lose half a stone, 7 pounds, for 3-4 kilos in that first week. That's not body fat you're losing. It's just not physically possible for you to oxidize and burn that much body fat in that short a time. It has to be water. And the reason why that happens is because you're not giving yourself any carbohydrates. Your body is pulling those glycogen molecules, those carbohydrate molecules, from your muscles, from your liver, and maybe even converting some fat cells as well. But it's mostly going to be those carbohydrates dropping. And because you're going to be burning those stores of carbohydrate and you're not renewing them, you lose the carbohydrate. You've got 4 molecules of water. What are you going to do with that? You're going to expel it. You're going to go to the toilet more often. And that's basically what's happening. And the other thing that's also going to be happening is that you're going to become dehydrated, because your body is suddenly losing an awful lot of water. And one of the things that most of the guys that I work with want to try and look a little bit younger, maybe retain their youthful glow, losing a lot of water, becoming dehydrated, that's going to come from your face as well. You're going to look drawn, you're going to look dehydrated, you're going to your skin is starting to thin because of the dehydration. Hey, nobody needs that. We need all the help we can get. Well, I do anyway. So, you know, I'm not prepared to go on a low carb diet. I did do it in the past, and yeah, it does work, but it works after the water loss is over and done with. If you continue to do a low carb diet, it works exactly the same as every other diet. It's calorie restriction. That's all it's doing. It's only that first whoosh of water that you're losing that people think, oh yeah, this is great. This is exactly what I need. No, it's not. And then Christmas happens, birthdays happens, the cakes come out, the pizza comes out. What do you do then? You could be that person that, you know, picks off the topping off the pizza and leaves the bread. That's not going to happen to me. Confession time, I had pizza before I started this call, but you know. I did make it. It's homemade pizza with homemade tomato sauce. So, you know, I made it as healthy as I possibly could, but it was pizza. It was damn good pizza too. So some clever carb swaps. So just to give you an idea, this is not about removing carbohydrate and doing a low carb diet. This is about giving you alternative and options that you can try that will hopefully lessen our need to fill up on carbohydrates. So for those of you that love rice, alternatives are couscous, unless you're a diabetic, as we found out with Bill, because couscous is really bad for your blood sugar. It turns out the couscous is basically tiny little bits of pasta, and it's extremely readily absorbed. So if you have blood sugar problems, skip the couscous bit. Cauliflower rice, it's a super duper low carb version, but it can work. It can be quite useful. Basically, just zap a few cauliflower florets in the microwave and then put it in the blender. That's your cauliflower rice. You might want to add some flavoring or some stock to it to give it a little bit of something. Otherwise, it might just be too cauliflower at the time. Quinoa is something I recommend to basically everybody because it's a pseudo grain. It's a complete protein. It's about between 5 and 10% protein. So it's another way of boosting your protein. It's a little bit like rice. You cook it like rice. I usually cook it in stock to give it that extra flavor. It has a slightly sort of nutty texture and a little bit of a bite to it. So it works really well with sauces and things like that. So for example, if I was doing a stew, quinoa would work brilliantly with that. So give that a go. Potatoes actually are really quite high in starch, so slow release carbohydrates. So actually, just plain old white potato is perfectly fine. But if you wanted to have an alternative, sweet potato is ever so slightly lower on the glycemic index, so it will release slower into your bloodstream. It will keep you fuller for longer. And it's just a nice alternative. It does actually, bizarrely, taste sweeter than a white potato, which I've never really understood, but it's actually lower on the glycemic index. So if you do have a sweet tooth, maybe try sweet potato. It might give you a little bit of a sense of satisfying that craving. Celeriac, also known as the ugliest veg. It's kind of a root vegetable, and it looks like it's gone a few rounds with Mike Tyson. It really does look sort of pretty smashed up. So about this time last year, I was having a look at what sort of fruits, vegetables, and things that were in season, and celeriac came up, and I found loads and loads of recipes for it. It's like a swede or a turnip, and it's a great alternative to potato. Celeriac mash is really, really good, and you can blitz it with other flavorings. Apple actually works quite well, but any other kind of flavorings you want to put in that you would normally put in with a potato mash works quite well. It's a little bit more watery than potato, so just bear that in mind, but it's a great alternative, and it does have a slightly celery twang to it. It's like celery flavor, but it's a really great alternative. You can also roast it. You can try and make fries out of it, but it doesn't work quite as well, but you can give it a go. And butternut squash is another great alternative for mash in particular. You can also make butternut squash fries or roasted butternut squash. It comes out really good and gives you that kind of potato feeling, but it's much, much lower in carbohydrate. And the great thing is, if you do go for something like celeriac, it's about a fifth of the carbohydrate of the potato. So it does mean that you can have other things that may be slightly higher in carbohydrate, such as lentils, beans, chickpeas, those sorts of things. Pasta. Big bowl of pasta. Loads of sauce and meat and whatever you want over the top of that. Fantastic. So rather than just saying no pasta, what I'd rather say is half the pasta, loads and loads of extra veg, extra protein as well, to really fill that up, because again, the pasta is a filler, and it's the sauce, it's the veg, it's all those extra bits and pieces that are really going to actually make you feel satisfied. Some people that have also been on a low carb diet have also recommended chickpea flour pasta, which you can buy in the supermarkets. I found it to be 4 to 5 times more expensive. So I thought, sod that, I'm going to have normal pasta. I might go for brown pasta, wholemeal, and I'm just going to put extra veg in it. I'm quite tight when it comes to buying food. So, but if it works for you, great. If you find it's a good alternative, then go ahead and do it. Bread. It's amazing how much bread we can consume. it really it really is quite outstanding. But you know, maybe 1 or 2 slices of toast for breakfast, maybe a sandwich for lunch, that's another 2 slices, and then for the evening meal, maybe a small bread roll to go with the side of it. That's almost an entire, you know, small loaf of bread, or half a loaf of British bread, because we seem to have much larger loaves than they do in America. It's a huge amount of carbohydrate, and it's really not needed. So if you are going to be having bread, have 1 slice instead of 2. So for breakfast, have 1 slice with your eggs on top, works really well. Have an open sandwich instead. So instead of having a sandwich, literally just take one off and eat it with a knife and fork, or fold it over or something like that. I mentioned yesterday as well, if you're having a sort of just buying a pack of a sandwich, just take one half of those slices off and put the other bit together. So you've got like a triple decker sandwich. That way you just tone down the carbohydrate just a little bit. And that's what we're aiming to do here. Not perfection, just turning the notch a little bit. Wraps. So 1 wrap is the equivalent of 1.5 slices of bread. So if you're going to have a sandwich, having it as a wrap will tone down the carbohydrate. But having an open sandwich with 1 piece of bread will make it less carbohydrate than a wrap. So you kind of think about those in that order, and that's kind of where you're aiming for. If you are going to be having bread, then try and get the wholemeal, the brown bread, with as much seeds and nuts as possible in it. Because again, it's going to sort of thin out the carbohydrate a little bit. It's actually going to make it more calorific. It's going to have more calories than a normal, just a wholemeal slice of bread. Because of the nuts, because of the seeds, they're higher in fat and therefore higher in calories. But it's going to reduce the glycemic index. It's going to fill you up for longer, and make you feel more satisfied. Crisps, chips, depends on what side of the Atlantic you're on, those little crunchy things. Add a push, carrot sticks and dip. If you really do want them, then maybe some like the bread crackers, those sorts of things, instead of chips. So you've still got that crunch, you've still got that sort of that snacky feel to it, but have it with the dip, with the carrots, have it as part of that. So again, it's more about having that snack as a balanced snack and not just pure carbohydrate. Adding in some dip, some hummus is going to have protein, some more carbohydrate, but it's going to have a lot of fiber in there and some good fats too. A good alternative to that as well, if you want something for a bit of change, some tzatziki or some tara masalata. Tzatziki is a Greek yogurt based dip with garlic and cucumbers. And the tara masalata is I think it's a cod roe. It's like the pink stuff that is very popular in Greek restaurants. I love it, but it's not everybody's thing. Chocolate, my favorite. You can take chocolate out of my cold dead hands. I am not giving up chocolate for anybody. But if you give me milk chocolate, I will not move until I've finished it, no matter how much you give me. So for me, darker is better. I started off on 70% dark chocolate, went to 80%, tried 90%, but it was like licking the floor. So I went back to 80% again. And my boyfriend said, I really don't actually enjoy this. So we're currently on the 70%, but I do have 1 or 2 little chunks of that every single day. And there's no chance I can give that up. If you do want to thin that out a little bit more, if you are still finding you're eating a lot of it, then melt some chocolate down, mix it with some mixed unsalted nuts and maybe some dried fruit, and make your own fruit and nut bar. And then one of my clients would then push those into an ice cube tray and make his own little chocolate mixed fruit nuggets. And that was a great way for him to do portion control as well. So that might be worth thinking about too. Alcohol. So as I think I've mentioned before, alcohol very simply, it turns off fat burning. So if there's alcohol in your system, you are not going to be burning fat. So if you're having alcohol every single day, I know, I'm really sorry, alcohol is going to stop you from burning fat, or at least make it really, really difficult and slow for you. Again, I'm not giving up alcohol, but I have cut down quite a lot. If you have a specific goal of losing weight or gaining muscle, alcohol does disrupt those functions. And so you will need to cut down or cut out. Just remind yourself, this isn't forever. It's just until you get a bit closer to your goal that you can reintroduce it again. And I'm really sorry. But it is a poison, and your body treats it like that, and it does cause lots of problems. Another dessert alternative for you is my fruit ice cream. If you haven't got this, then I'll let me just make a note, because I'll send you all the link to the ice cream as well. So I made a Neapolitan ice cream that was basically made from frozen bananas, which makes the base of the ice cream, a little bit of milk, vanilla essence. That's basically vanilla ice cream. Throw in some chocolate powder into a third of it. That makes chocolate ice cream. Throw in a few frozen strawberries into the other third of it. That basically makes strawberry ice cream. Put the three together, you've got a Neapolitan. So it's a really good way of giving you that sense of getting a little bit of a sweet treat dessert, but just count it as one of your portions of fruit, because that's basically what it's going to be. And as I mentioned before, 1 or 2 portions of fruit per day is kind of where you want to aim for, tops. So I wouldn't go much further than that. Next one. So swapping out or thinking about fat content. So first of all, long gone are the days of a low-fat diet. That now is absolutely not the right way of doing it. There are so many vitamins that are fat soluble that you can make yourself quite ill if you're completely removing fat from your diet. So having fat in your diet is really important. Along with the fat fad, people were paranoid about having eggs in their diet, because you were only supposed to have 1 or 2 a week, if that. That's completely turned around now. There basically is no limit on the number of eggs that you can have, apart from how many calories there are in them. So if you are having a lot of eggs, 2, 3, 4 a day, no problem at all. More than that, you might want to start thinking about taking the yolks out of some of them, just to kind of reduce the calories a little bit. But eggs, fine, go ahead. Great snacks. Boil up a few eggs, put them in the fridge. Great protein rich, 7 grams of protein for every large egg, loads of vitamin A, vitamin D, vitamin E, healthy fats in there as well, a little bit of saturated fat, but we actually need saturated fat for building cell walls. So it is actually something that we need to include in our diet. So eggs, go for it. Salad dressings. The best salad dressing you can make is the one that you make yourself. As soon as you buy a salad dressing off the shelf, it's going to have other crap in it that doesn't necessarily make it unhealthy, but why have all the extra stuff in it when you can just literally mix 2 ingredients together and make a much better tasting version? So my favorite is going to be the extra virgin olive oil, balsamic vinegar. That's it, just those 2 together. Now, for those of you that are very upset about me banning alcohol, go and buy balsamic vinegar, olive oil, and spend as much on those bottles as you would a good bottle of wine, because those will last a lot longer and they will taste absolutely phenomenal. So spend as much as you would on a bottle of wine on your olive oil and on your balsamic vinegar. And that as a base dressing is a great way of doing it. The added benefit of mixing the vinaigrette dressing with your salad is that it kind of pre-digests the salad, so that when you eat it, you actually get more vitamins and minerals from the salad than you would have done if you had it without a dressing. And because some of these vitamins are going to be fat soluble, having a fat around it actually improves bioavailability of the nutrients of the salad. So vinaigrette, oil, vinegar, dressing, the vinegar in the dressing is going to make that salad actually more nutritious for you. So definitely worth going ahead and doing. Avocados. Now, there's a lot of bad press about avocados at the moment, so you might want to leave these bits out right now. But anyway, avocados, don't just think of it as guacamole. Put it into salads, put it into sort of a mix of foods that you're having in sandwiches. You know, think of it as an oil, as a butter, as a margarine, something like that. Use the avocados to do that. Avocados on toast, also a great snack. Not terribly high in protein, so you might want to just bear that in mind, but it's going to be a great satisfying snack. Nuts. So the nuts are a fantastic snack. They're the best kind of nuts you get, mixed. Get a variety of nuts, because every single nut has kind of is a powerhouse with a particular vitamin or a particular type of fat. So just get the mixed ones, unsalted, unroasted, just plain old raw mixed nuts. One almond has 100% of your daily selenium intake. So if you're taking selenium, you just need an almond, just one, and that does it. Walnuts contain omega-3. It's one of the best ways of boosting your omega-3 intake if you're not eating fish, for example. So go ahead and do that. Get a portion of nuts. And a portion of nuts is basically just in the center of the palm of your hand. Phil. I'm not looking at anybody, but Phil, that's how much you should be having. If you want to thin it out a bit, mix it up with some dried fruit, as I said yesterday. Or what I would sometimes do is put some granola with it, because I make my own granola. So mixing it with the granola, a few nuts, you're kind of mixing up the good fats, the carbohydrate, and the protein all together. But again, portion size, it needs to be the size of your palm. And I've got quite small palms, so I hardly get any at all. Cheeses can add a huge amount of flavor to your dishes. They're also incredibly high in protein. They're actually usually about 30% protein, so as high as meat, but they're really high in fat too. So obviously you need to just bear that in mind. And if you have high cholesterol or high triglycerides, you are going to want to go for the low fat varieties of cheese. And this has probably been one of the things that's helped me the most with my cholesterol levels, is swapping over to low fat cheese. I still get the flavor, still get the taste. It doesn't melt as well, but you kind of get used to that. So if you do have high cholesterol, you do need to reduce the fat, particularly from cheese, because it's got a certain type of saturated fat that usually is really quite effective at increasing your cholesterol. So if you do have high cholesterol, low fat cheese is where you want to go first. Extra virgin olive oil. Everybody just knows that's good for you. What I didn't realize until fairly recently is it's actually okay to cook with as well. It can be quite strong in flavor, so don't go for the posh stuff, go for the cheaper end extra virgin olive oil so that you can cook with that. It's not terribly great at very high temperatures, so if you're going to be doing a steak and searing it, it's not going to be so great for that. But just lightly frying stuff, onions for the base of any kind of meal, extra virgin olive oil is a great way of introducing a good healthy fat, and it will help increase your HDL, your good cholesterol. Canola oil or rapeseed oil, that's also getting some really bad rap at the moment, and it's completely unfounded. Canola oil, rapeseed oil is actually really good for reducing your bad cholesterol. It has it's got basically the top rating out of pretty much all the other foods, apart from omega-3. So increasing your omega-3, increasing your canola oil, rapeseed oil in your cooking will help. And I do say increasing rather than just completely swapping out. The trick is in the variety. Having a little bit of all of these things is what you want to aim for. Don't just have extra virgin olive oil. Don't just have rapeseed oil. Just don't have just coconut oil. Coconut oil is quite interesting because coconut oil is 100% saturated fat. So you think, oh, that's not good for you, is it? But it's a different type of saturated fat. It's quite unique in that it's got MCT, and a lot of people will bang on about MCT. And MCT basically means medium chain triglycerides. So normal saturated fat is a long chain triglyceride, and it takes your body a lot more effort to try and break that down. So it's usually like, oh, there's a lot of this stuff, I'll just store it. So you end up storing it as fat. With medium chain triglycerides, your body breaks it down a lot easier, a lot quicker. So it actually treats it a little bit more like a carbohydrate. So it's much easier to get and process and utilize that for your energy levels. So again, don't just use coconut oil, but think about how can you include some of that in your diet and swap it around. I've actually found that although coconut, I don't really like the taste of coconut, but it's usually very mild, especially when you buy the virgin coconut oil that hasn't been heat treated to get more oil out of it. It actually works really well with scrambled eggs. It's surprising how that kind of just gives it a little bit of a lift. So I don't know, Mark, if you've tried coconut oil with your tofu scramble, but that might be worth a go as well. Flavored oils, another great way of including additional flavor, additional oils into your diet. So when I'm frying up tofu, when I'm frying up a salmon steak, I'll probably put in some either canola oil or extra virgin olive oil, and then I'll flavor it with sesame oil or basil oil or garlic oil, just to give it a little bit of a kick. And then obviously chili oil just works if you like something a little bit with a bit of a kick, a little bit of spice. Chili oil works really well. So again, the low fat fad has gone. We still don't want to have loads of it because it's just high in calories, but you do absolutely want to be including this in every single meal that you have, and every single snack that you have. There should be a fat element of it. Don's just asked, what's your advice on supplements, i.e. omega-3? From the stuff that I've been reading, omega-3 is probably the only supplement that I would recommend that you take. The rest of it, you probably should be getting from your natural diet anyway. But even if you do eat fish once or twice a week, you're probably still not getting enough omega-3. So unless you're getting a lot of walnuts or flaxseed or hemp seed, something like that in your diet, you probably do want to take an omega-3 capsule as well. And that is going to help your cholesterol levels too. So that'll help even them out. It also helps with brain cognition as well. So brain function. So again, as we get older, can't afford that thing to go because that's pretty much all we got left. So yeah, omega-3 is probably the only, that is the only supplement that I take is omega-3. I don't bother with anything else because I try and ram so much veg in everything else. I'm pretty much getting all my nutrients from that. If you feel a particular supplement is doing you good, then as long as it's not costing you a flipping fortune, then take it, because actually the placebo effect is really powerful. If it makes you feel good, then it probably is doing you good. But the fact that it's chemically or scientifically, it's actually doing jack shit, doesn't matter. If it makes you feel good, then do it. It's a little bit like collagen supplements. And ladies are very disappointed when I tell them this, but collagen supplements are just an incredibly expensive protein shake. And collagen is a really long chain protein. So when you eat it, your body breaks it down and it goes, hey, look, I've got some protein for you. What do you want me to do with it? I don't remember what it was before. It's just protein now. So, you know, I'll put it in your muscles. All right. That's what happens. They're basically spending this fortune on collagen, but it makes them feel good. It makes them feel like they're doing something. And that is the power behind that. But yeah, basically, if you want to get extra protein, you just get extra protein. Your body will use that protein for whatever it thinks it needs to at the time. And usually it's whatever the highest priority is. So if we do a little bit of resistance exercise, our muscles become the priority. That's where the protein's going to go. And that's where it's going to be storing stuff. So the reason why I talk about smart swaps rather than cutting out is when you cut out things, whether it's a carbohydrate, whether it's a fat, whether it's a meal. I mean, I did intermittent fasting for about 2.5, 3 years, and it kind of worked. It really did. But it's kind of, it set me up with the issue that when I went off the intermittent fasting, it was really difficult to get back on again. And I was beating myself up for not doing it properly again. So it kind of gave me a little bit of a bad relationship with food, and in particular with breakfast. So, I mean, I've never been great with breakfast anyway, but now I really have to make sure that I have it. Otherwise I can easily forget. And that's where, as I was saying, that's where most of my protein is needed, is first thing in the morning, because I haven't had anything to eat all night. So by extending that even further, I'm just going to be doing less good than I could be doing. So swapping rather than cutting out, providing yourself with a plate that looks fulfilling, it's going to be satisfying, it's going to nourish you rather than fill you up. It's a huge mindset shift, looking at a plate and thinking, is there enough on there to fill me? Or is this meal going to nourish me? It's going to sustain me and give me what I need? It's a very different way of thinking about it. So I tend to get people to focus on, you know, what's on their plate. Think about making it as colorful as you possibly can. Think beyond the beige. And as I mentioned yesterday, proportion is more powerful than portion control. Having what's on your plate proportionally correct for a nutritious meal is more powerful than how much is on your plate, and worrying about the size of the food and the quantity of the food on your plate. Because let's face it, if I swapped out a bowl of pasta for a bowl of veg and still had the sauce over the top of it, still had the meat, still had the whatever, the difference between a bowl of broccoli and a bowl of pasta, that's going to be hundreds of calories in difference. But there's both, the volume is still there. I'm still going to feel as full, but I'm going to be much more nourished by eating that vegetable instead. So I will go on about this again and again and again. 50% of your plate should be vegetables, 25% should be a protein, 20%-ish should be a low GI carbohydrate, and then 5% of good fat. This image, I've been talking about this to a lot of people, and this image is actually from the American Diabetics Association. I need to get one where I can tweak it and put my 5% fat in, because they're slightly different to mine. But yeah, it's almost like we need a fourth macro, because the macros are proteins, fats, and carbohydrates. I want there to be a fourth one of vegetables. I know that veg have proteins and carbohydrates and fats in them, you know, but I just feel like it's so important. It should have its own macro. And then obviously a calorie-free drink to go with that. But in all seriousness, having a drink of something with your meal is probably the best way to A, keep track with how much water you're drinking, and B, to make sure that you don't get cravings after you've eaten, because you're actually giving your body the hydration that it's probably going to be asking for later on, and making you think that it wants a sweet treat. So just some real world examples of what I'm talking about here. So we've got the protein, we've got the carbohydrate, we've got 50% of our plate filled with vegetables. Slightly different here. We've got loads and loads of veg around the outside, but we've actually got lentils and beans and stuff and veg stuffed underneath. Loads of protein. And I don't think this was just whole grain mustard. I can't remember. I'll have to speak to whoever posted this into the group. But this, again, cramming loads of veg on there. It's colorful. It looks like something that's going to be nutritious for you. And then I believe it's a piece of fish with some shrimp or prawns on there. And again, 50% of the plate rammed full of veg and a little bit of carbohydrate in there as well. So that's kind of what I want you to aim for. Colorful, 50% veg, loads of protein, and a little bit of carbohydrate on there. This is where you will be going from now on. And my clients have found that this just works for them. They don't need to worry about restricting. They can just focus on the healthy food, and the rest just kind of takes care of it themselves. They're not calorie counting. They're not restricting. None of my clients feel like they're on a diet. They just feel like they're learning to eat better and learning to love food again and enjoy food again, because I think their relationship with food had become so disjointed and almost functional that they kind of resented food to some degree, because it was either just because I had to because I was hungry, or it was something that I was craving. I wanted something sweet and something that was nice. But also, my clients learn what works for them and their health conditions. Everybody's going to have different problems. Everyone's going to have different issues. Whether it's your relationship with food, whether it's high cholesterol, whether it's diabetes, whether it's high blood pressure. What I'm talking about here, and what I have been talking about, they are generalizations, because I haven't spoken to you personally and worked with you necessarily to find out what would work better for you, given your lifestyle, given your health conditions. So learning what works for you and not just taking these generalizations on face value. You need to be a little bit careful with the advice that I'm giving. These are generalizations, because I can't pick each one of you and say, you need to do this, you need to do that, you need to do that. That's what I do with my clients. I work with them individually. It's just them. It's just information that is suitable for them and their conditions. But by doing that, I can work out what smart swaps would work for them, what they can have, so that they never feel like they're missing out, so that they always feel like, well, I can pretty much have whatever I want. And that's kind of the goal here, is you should be able to feel that you can have whatever you want. Maybe not unlimited quantities and every single day, but you should be able to have a little bit of chocolate, a piece of pizza, some dessert, a glass of wine, maybe not every day, but anyway. But you should be able to feel that you can have that. And if you don't, then that's a different issue. And that's something that we need to work on and dig a little bit deeper, or you need to consider what's going on there. And also helping my clients just know how to make meals just a little bit better. I need to get a t-shirt printed with just a little bit better on it, because I say it all the friggin' time. And one of my clients did comment on this, and I didn't even realize I was doing it until now. But yeah, just look at making your meals a little bit better. Don't try and make them perfect. Add a bit of yogurt to your Weetabix. That makes it a little bit better. That's all I'm asking you to do. And your taste buds will change. You will start to crave these healthy things. There are a number of clients of mine that tell me that they crave salads now. Damn you! Because their taste buds have changed. I've had one client who had very high blood pressure, and I got her to remove all salt from her diet. Now, for the first 2 weeks, she couldn't taste a thing because nothing had salt in it. But after 2 weeks, she was starting to find, she could taste the different elements of a food. And then she went out for a meal and it was too salty. She couldn't eat it. Damn you, Paul, you've made things too salty. I did not apologize. So your taste buds will change. Your taste buds will recover and start to appreciate these foods that you're having on a regular basis. And as I said yesterday, try to think smarter instead of trying harder, making it a little bit easier. What is the simplest, smallest step that you can take to make this meal, make this snack a little bit better? Okay. So that was quite a lot of information again. Does anybody have any questions, or have I exhausted you all?
I had one question.
Mm.
Just in terms of the replacements, pasta. I did come across in a supermarket once lentil pasta.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a good alternative?
Absolutely, yeah. So the lentil pasta, I think I've briefly mentioned it. You can buy it. It's a lot more expensive, and that's that's kind of when I thought, oh, sod that. I'm just going to add more veg into it. But as an alternative, because it's made from lentils, there is a chickpea version as well. They've still got carbohydrate in them, but because they also have a large quantity of protein in them as well, it kind of reduces the amount of calories per portion. The trick with pasta is to start with taking a handful of pasta, or taking the same cup measurement or mug measurement or whatever you have, and using that as your measuring device, using it the same time every time that you have pasta. And what you're looking for is to see, how full do you feel after eating that bowl of pasta? Do you feel 100% full? If you do, you could probably take out a few pieces of that pasta. But you want to make it as easy as possible, which is why I don't talk about weighing stuff. I talk about using your hands so that you can get a feel of what that would be like. So you don't even have to think about it. You literally grab the pasta, put it in. Now, normally when I would originally cook pasta, it would be 2 handfuls per person. Oh my God, that's a lot of pasta. It's a lot of pasta. Now it's usually 1 or 2 handfuls for 2 people, because I'm filling it up with veg, I'm filling it up with other stuff. So as a stepping stone, if you want to try the chickpea pasta or the lentil pasta, go ahead and do that. It will reduce the calories, but it's not teaching you to eat less pasta. So it's a good way to start, but I'd love you to learn how to portion that out before you've even cooked it better. Does that make sense?
That does, yeah. Thank you.
Okay, no problem at all. Because it is something that I think a lot of people struggle with, and they quite often think, oh well, I'll just get the stuff that's automatically less bad for me. But that doesn't. It's kind of like any kind of diet that's restrictive, that has rules. It doesn't teach you what to do afterwards. Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Does anybody else have any questions? Cool. Well, you know what that means then, don't you, guys? Homework. All right. So it's one picture, either posted in the group or sent to me privately, and it's just one balanced plate. It can be a snack as well. And you know what I'm expecting, don't you? What this plate's going to be full of. Mark is going to find this incredibly easy. Although actually Mark might find the protein bit a little bit difficult, so that'll be interesting. So it's going to be a challenge for him. And that's it. That's all you've got to do. Nice and easy one this time. Just one picture showing me a balanced plate of food. All right. I like the commitment there. It's like, oh yeah, I could do that. Yeah, it's easy. Yeah, I could do that. No problem. Yeah. All right. So I'm going to leave it there for today. As always, thank you so much for actually bothering to come in and turn up. I do really appreciate it. I hope you found it useful today. If you do have any questions, if there's something that you haven't had a chance to ask or comes to you later on, do just send me a message and I'll cover it off on the last day. Or if I don't have time because it's too full, then I will just reply to you either in private, or if it's something I think other guys would benefit from, I'll post it into the group as well. So unless anybody has any urgent questions now, thank you, and I'll see you all tomorrow. All right, take care. See you then.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.